Our solution assists the senior-most sales leader and his or her leadership team optimize a frontline sales manager's time spent across key management activities that result in more efficient process, improved productivity, and additional revenue. How we do this is by indexing all of the events on a manager's calendar via Google or Microsoft integration, and we enrich the data with the tenure and performance of their teams so we can get to some data-driven insights by tenure and performance cohorts. And let me just be perfectly clear. We absolutely believe that the frontline sales manager is the heart of a revenue organization, and it is also one of the hardest jobs in the company itself. Fortunately, here to report that our management processes are unfortunately nowhere near as rigorous as our sales processes. As you think about your own individual sales process at your organization, my guess is that they're documented, they're defined, probabilities associated to stages, exit criteria, line marketing collateral, et cetera, et cetera. However, when you look at your management processes, I think you can start to drive a truck through it. Arguably, they're not systematized, they lack really any form of measurement, and they truly don't help us really understand what the best managers are doing in order to replicate those managers. We asked a group that arguably looks like the contours of who's joined this call today, and we asked them how important management processes are towards driving specific KPIs. And more than two-thirds, almost 75% of you guys came back and said that the management process is very important to drive the pipeline, win rates, percentage of sellers at plan, forecast accuracy, and renewal rates. However, take a look at this, and take a look at this right here. More than half of you, the organizations actually report not actually having written down their management process. And those that actually did write it down, it's only a fraction that would suggest that it's highly prescribed in terms of guiding managers towards what to do. And I think it's probably not surprising that we see results that look like this. And give me a second here, and let me try and explain what you're looking at. I know it's what you're about to see is fruit salad. What you're looking at is a second line leader's dashboard of an actual customer early in their onboarding, where this manager has 7 direct frontline sales managers reporting in. All the names are, of course, hidden to kind of protect the innocent, so to speak. But I think this is emblematic of what we find in some of our early customers. If you take a look at these managers who arguably have the same span in terms of number of direct reports, calling into the same segments of the market, fundamentally take a different approach in the role. Take a look at a basic metric and the difference in time they spend with the team. One manager here is spending close to 40% of their time with their team, while another 16%. One-on-ones, one manager over 10% of their time, another at 5%. Team meetings. I mean, look at the co-selling component. This is in the market, joint traveling, call partnering, call alongs, ride alongs, whatever term we use today. One manager spending 15, 16% of their time versus one manager that arguably doesn't get to the market nearly at all. And I think this is what we start to see, this kind of mixed bag in terms of performance. And our belief is the inconsistency in the approach that we take in the management role leads to the inconsistency and lack of predictability in our overall sales results. When we actually began to look at the managers' calendars and ask these high-performing managers what management events they held most frequently, super crystal clear on this particular dimension. Forecast review, pipeline review, team meetings, call reviews, and call selling. And when you start to press in again and look at these calendar invites and so forth, and look at the way that they actually conduct these management ceremonies, if you will, as you can imagine, structure, outlining the what, the why, and the how associated with each of these individual events. More often than not, we kind of press in and talk to the lower performing management teams and so forth. We hear things such as not drawing distinctions between a pipeline review and a forecast review, that it all kind of bubbles into a particular one-on-one, and start to see that kind of fruit salad picture that we see associated to managers not optimizing their time. But beyond the qualitative, I think when you start to study their time spent, you absolutely start to see high-performing managers that, again, are just simply more structured in their approach to the role. And this spider diagram, I think, does a nice job of profiling the difference between how a high-performing manager spends time and a low-performing manager. So if we look at these kind of high-performing managers in contrast, 34% more time spent in structured events, that's one-on-ones, forecasts, team meetings, etc. 46% less unstructured or open calendar time. And when we climbed into this, what we began to see is that these high-performing managers, they're in demand across the organization. They're getting pulled from marketing and finance and ops, et cetera, as the functional groups are trying to do market sensing and things of that nature. And then, of course, what we see here, and it's the big one. I mean, this is 200% more time in the market co-selling with their reps. And Doug, I don't know if this is a time to kind of let the cat out of the bag, but
indeed it is. I think it just got out.
It's this metric right here in terms of, if you could take one thing to have an immediate impact in terms of the results in the second half, end of year kind of ascent to the number, it's this one. And kind of building a world-class management process itself. Number one, how do we get access to all calendars? We need visibility into what our managers and our reps are doing, kind of first and foremost. Number two, we would focus in on kind of the events that matter most, pipeline forecast, the team meeting. I do put the block in there right there, and co-selling. Define the events, the what, the why, the how. Again, more often than not, what we see is, light prescription, if no prescription at all, in terms of the pipeline, the forecast, the deal review, how to co-sell. I think that is a great enablement exercise that we can run, Friday brown bag, however you want to characterize it, to help managers understand, how do I co-sell? What are the things they should be doing in a pre-call prep? How do I define my role? How do we begin to do the post-call debrief, et cetera, et cetera. Get managers in the market, right? The bottom of our card says sales. Let's get into the market as much as we can, pick our spots. If in fact you can bias the mid performers and those new hires, I think, Doug, to your point, how much juice are we really going to get out of the, hey, let me travel with the high tenured high performer squeeze? Probably not as much, in fact, not as much as the mid tenure, less lower performing types of reps themselves. And then finally, to the point around building enablement curriculums around these operating events, super important.